Party people and magic makers? Destiny here on this magical Monday. Today we're going to talk about what happens when you bypass your future certainty. What? I know, kind of a big thing, but we'll break it down, right? And as you know, every Monday I come at you with a mindset video that you can use to implement throughout the week. And if you know of anybody that could use the message, please feel free to share it with them. And don't forget to comment below. I want to hear from you so that we can have an engagement and let's dive deeper into this, yeah? Okay, so a future certainty. Give you some examples. I'm sure you're asking that. So here's what I'm talking about. Let's say you're so certain that something's gonna happen. Maybe you're gonna get this job because you know you nailed the interviews. Maybe you know that something really great is gonna happen to you. Maybe you're certain that something not so great is going to happen. For example, hey, I want to make X amount of money, but you know when you do, something's going to happen and that money's going to go whoosh, right? There's this level of certainty that you have about what's going to happen in the future. Hey, here's the example that I'm going to use. My husband was scheduled for some medical tests next week, actually. Like he was going to go in next week, Monday. And the test got canceled, right? We were so certain that he was going to go in at the end of the year. We were so excited. We were already pre-celebrating because we were going to get some answers finally after a year and a half of not knowing what was going on, why it was happening, how to prevent it. That's just rough, right? And we had done all of the things changed our dryer sheets, for example, eating healthier, all of the environmental things that we could do, we were addressing in the hopes that they would help with the condition that he was going through, but nothing did. So we were basically just kind of poking at things to see if it would work. Well, the test got canceled. We were super bummed, right? Super bummed. Now, this is where I'm talking about the bypassing of your future certainty. So we were so certain that he was going to have these tests, that we were finally going to get answers and we could move on with our life and do the things to fix it, right? And then it all just went poof and it went away. Now, a couple of things that can be done is you can just ignore it and be like, oh, well, you know what? When the next time it gets scheduled or, we can move on then. But the part that gets you really, really a little bit messed up is when you don't feel the feelings that are coming up right in that moment and you decide to bypass on them. You decide to just sweep them off to the side and pretend like they don't exist, which AKA is also stuffing them down, right? Because you're not dealing with them in the moment, so you kind of move them along. That is super rough on you. In the long run, it's also rough around people that you're around. Because here's what happens. It winds up causing unnecessary stress. It winds up causing a lot of uncertainty and, quite frankly, anxiety. And so that's what I see a lot of when I'm working with my clients is they had this goal or this thing in mind and it didn't work out the way that they thought it would. And instead of dealing with what they're feeling, they just push it off on the side. Okay? And by doing that once, you might be able to be okay with that. Over and over and over and over again, no. It's going to build up and it's going to create this container that's just bubbling up and it's waiting to explode. Okay? So here's the deal, right? That certainty that you had about the future was just, it was really at best a guess, okay? Because it didn't really happen yet, right? And so it's being influenced on what happened in the past. It's because it hasn't happened yet. You don't know exactly what's going to come up, but because you have this certainty on this is what it's going to look like, you've got nothing to base it on except for your past. Because this thing didn't happen yet, right? So what was it about this thing happening that either got you really super excited or kind of dreading it in the first place, right? And go back and look at that, right? So for us, I was super excited because I'm finally we get some answers. Finally. But what I also recognize and realize is that meant that I wasn't in the moment. I was always either looking back or I was looking ahead. I wasn't in the moment, right? And so that's where it started kind of getting skewed for me because I kept going, well, I don't want what happened in the past to happen again, so we're going to get these answers and then it'll be all better. Well, right now is not so horrible, right? Like, yeah, it sucks to not have an answer. Yes, it sucks to kind of be like, well, when's it going to happen? Is something going to happen? What's going to go on? But at the same time, if I deal with that and I deal with like, what am I afraid of from the past? What's coming up for me in the past? What from the past has got me anxious now? Then I wouldn't be feeling what I'm feeling. But see, because the bypassing happened over and over and over and over again, oh, guess what? Right? So the certainty that I have about what's coming in the future is actually based on what went on in my past. Same for what's going on for you. So people that have that money thing, right? Like I want to make X number of dollars, and then you make it and you're like super stoked about it, and then the bill comes for like, I don't know, a new roof, or your car breaks down, or I don't know, something happens, taxes maybe, I don't know, whatever it is, right? And then all of a sudden here that bill comes and you're like, crap, why did that happen again? Guess what? That's based on your past. So there's sort of this anxiousness and this like, oh, but this thing might happen. And yes, so why don't you go deal with the thing in the past? And like, what caused it in the first place? What if you dealt with that? So then your certainty can just be an amazing certainty of like, I'm going to make some money. I'm going to get some answers. I'm going to have something really amazing happen to me. But see, we're not taught to deal with whatever we're dealing with in the moment. We are taught to bypass it and push it on the side. For some of us, the way we grew up, there's only certain emotions that we're safe to have. So then when we have those emotions in our present, they're okay. But anything else, and so we push it on the side. One, because we weren't exactly taught how to deal with that. And two, it's, I mean, it's uncomfortable, right? It feels kind of icky to have to deal with it. So then what do you do? What do you do? First step, please breathe. Just take a breath. If you're recognizing that you're doing this, congratulations for recognizing that you're doing this. That's a really huge step. And it's a step that a lot of people don't like focus on, but it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. So congratulations for doing that. Like, yes, way to go. The second thing is to take a look at what's causing the certainty, right? Like what in your past is causing what's happening right now for you, okay? Especially with the bypassing of your certainty. What's causing that? And then clear it, right? Clear that and work on that. And they say you need to feel it to heal it. Yes, it's sort of your gauge, right? That thing that tells you like, hey, you know, the like they use those metal detectors and stuff, right? And it like beeps when you get close to the thing. It's your gauge, it's your metal detector to figure out what needs to be cleaned out and cleared up, because that's going to support you in the future. That way your certainty, you can be certain about something really great happening. You can be certain that like when it does happen, you can celebrate it rather than fear it or have anxiety about it, right? And then if it doesn't happen, you can just be like, okay, so that didn't happen. Now what? Now what? Right? The now what for me is I'm going to make some phone calls and be like, hey, not cool, right? And what can we expect in the future? Like now that we've got these tests rescheduled, do we expect this to happen again in the future? And I understand that there's some things that they can predict and some that they can't. But when it kind of sounds like they're just postponing you to postpone you again, and then like the little metal detector beep beep beeps kind of coming up, it's like, okay, how can we circumvent that and prevent that from happening, right? And like, let's put the plan in place to move forward, all of us together, right? So take a look at that. What's causing you to have like those certainties? How do you feel when those certainties don't happen? And then what are you doing to deal with what's coming up for you? Are you pushing it aside and bypassing it, or are you dealing with it? Okay, things to think about. All right, I will be back for the final Magical Monday of 2020. Holy crap. And I will see you next week. All right, peace.